So apparently, we were all extremely wrong in the field. But what were we wrong about? And that's what we're gonna find out. We got a great video from Canna, and what do they have to say? Let's get right
If you
into it.
haven't noticed, Astra Yao is on the horizon, Wuthering Waves 2.0 is absolutely fantastic, and in general, gacha games are thriving. I actually have something way more insane to confess. I've become wildly obsessed with the new game, and it's not even released yet. But it's true, I am absolutely
Nah, I can attest. I've been looking at everything I can about this game. I am infatuated with the game. Want to play it so bad. Unfortunately, I couldn't get into any of the tests. I just can't. I want it to come out as soon as possible so I can play it and get immersed in it.
infatuated, shocked, and spending over 16 hours a day playing Arknights Endfield. Before you ask, no, this isn't sponsored. Though yes, I did just beat the entirety of the beta while on less than 3 to 4 hours of sleep a night. Today
That is
though, I'll be breaking
crazy.
down everything you need to know about Arknights Endfield.
When you talk about addiction, that's an addiction right there.
However, before anything else, I do want to tell you guys that I aim to give you a real, honest, gacha addict biased take of everything that I've learned and experienced while actually having completed everything that the beta has to offer. Without further ado, let's get into it. To begin with, we need to actually talk about the game, the systems, the story, everything you would care to know about when it comes to Arknights. First, let's talk about the visuals. The UI of Arknights is out of this world, very crisp, very responsive, and extremely high quality, especially given that Arknights 1.0
All their UI, it just looks amazing. If there's one thing that I could say stands above the rest, it's the visuals, the animations of the characters, the animations of the UI, how it moves to your mouse and everything like that. They really put their heart and soul into making it as beautiful as possible.
certainly gave inspiration to a lot of sci-fi themes and menus in the gacha space as a whole. The game itself is also amazingly gorgeous, though at this point, most people have come to realize that graphics and 3D models that kind of look like this almost come standard in the industry because of game engines like Unreal Engine or Unity being popular. That being said, things like the combat special effects are also neat yet satisfying. The transitions between combat in cutscenes and the stunning environments that you traverse through while exploring all are very pleasing and make a great experience.
The combat also is just from everything I've seen and everything I've read about it, it feels very nice to be able to, if you're not playing it right, then it's going to feel mediocre. But as you gradually get better, you learn what activates what with the chain attacks. It starts to feel better and better, and it actually makes you feel like you're improving at the game, because once you're improving and you start to get better, you'll see the combination pop up again and again, just like with
That
this
you traverse through
character.
while exploring.
With the little character icon popping up, you'll have a couple pop up and you'll just keep that rotation going. It makes you feel good because it's telling you, hey, you're doing things right.
As well, no, I didn't forget about them. I also really like the way that the characters look. Now, of course, things like appreciating characters without being able to play or test them makes things a bit more difficult and definitely more subjective, but
Right.
sincerely, the characters all look fantastic, while each also has their own identity or unique theme that really glues their design together. Now, I know what you're thinking though. Even if everything in the game looks spectacular though, Kana, who cares? The most important aspect of a game is how enjoyable it actually is. After all, games are meant for relaxation, having fun, or enjoying yourself.
It's never made for that. It's made to be the best you can. You either got to sweat your brain out, put your heart and soul, or you got to throw as much money at it. It's never about having fun. You don't play games to have fun. You play games to be the best, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
Right? Well, guys, I hate to break it to you, this game broke
I'm joking, guys. I'm joking. Don't take me seriously, please.
every single expectation I had going into the beta. To begin with, I believed Arknights Endfield to have taken more inspiration from Genshin or share the common action combat theme that other games in the gacha scene have used recently. And while the game does have action combat in it, this is such a misrepresentation of the game as a whole. Yes, you will certainly fight frequently in Arknights Endfield, but no, that is definitely not what you spend every moment in the game doing. Instead, we now need to take a moment to address base building. This is an absolutely essential part of
Before he says anything, I will say I hope they really dumb down the base building, and not necessarily with how it's set up and with what it does, but more so lower the bar to entry, because I'm sure he's going to show it. It looks like a lot to just get into. It is very jarring when you get into it. But from what I understand, you build the base once, you set it up once, and then you don't have to touch it again. It's all automated. But still, just going through that first hurdle, it seems like a lot.
Of Arknights Endfield, and while it can be confusing at times, anyone who has ever played Satisfactory, Factorio, or any base building automation / exploration related game
I've not played any of
will
those.
definitely be excited. The main reason base building is so important is because it powers up your characters in the same way that you'd otherwise expect something like relics, disk drives, or echoes to give your characters stats. This makes the system.
Whoever makes a tutorial for the base building is gonna get 1,000,000 views off rip easily.
Feel like a critical part of Enfield's gameplay loop, and it also means that anytime you're improving your factory or your overall base, you're simultaneously improving your character's strength too. To be clear, what I'm describing right now is a completely free-to-play, no RNG system that gives your character stats, and it isn't even a small or insignificant amount either.
This is amazing. I wonder what's really gonna. I know there's another piece of equipment that is randomized every time you make it or something to that effect, but I wonder what's gonna be the main grind, because every gacha game, for the most part, they have the randomized relic system for the different stats and everything, and that's what you really spent a lot of your time, a lot of you go back every day to, hey, I need to get this good piece so I can make my character better. I wonder what's gonna keep us coming back like that for this game, because the whole gear set is static. If it's just the one piece that you have to get per character, I wonder if there's anything else that we need to grind for.
Some of the equipment that you unlock and gain access to by leveling up your base have some of the most ridiculous effects I've ever seen, and that's not all. Another amazing and satisfyingly designed aspect of the base building in Arknights is how the base actually contributes to your overall character progression and world. What I mean by this is that having more recipes unlocked in your base or unlocking new levels also gives you access to new mechanics that allow you to explore the world differently.
That's great. That's great. There, I mean, like I said, as long as they really like lower the bar to entry on the base building, I love the fact that focus on the base, don't forget about this, build up the base as good as you can, and it opens up the world as you go. I love that aspect. That sounds great.
Or even better. This includes things like explosives or even consumables that you can use in combat to keep yourself healthy. Now, again, if you're someone who enjoys base building or automation in general, you're in luck. Enfield has a lot of that, and there are plenty of buildings or products that need optimizing, exploring, or discovering so that you can make gear faster or more efficiently. This isn't the only thing you'll need to make, however, as the game also allows you to have multiple sub-bases with NPCs and allies that need resources themselves to improve their own areas,
Very nice.
which unlocks new features. So in short, the way that base
I wonder what kind of NPCs. I wonder if it's just random NPCs, or if you can put your characters in it, or if your characters have different stats. Maybe that'll be a reason why you pull on some characters in the future. They produce this one thing faster, or if it's all the same. I have so many questions that probably won't be answered until full release.
building has been designed gives something to both base building enjoyers, but also character building or action combat focused players too. Now, thus far, I've avoided talking too much about combat because I have a whole section dedicated for it right now, so let's actually dive deep into combat as a whole. Arknights Endfield plays like a mix between Xenoblade Chronicles and basically any action combat game that you'd like to think of. You could say it's similar to Wuthering Waves with some of the dodging or attacks, or you could even say it's similar to Genshin given how reliant the game is on elements.
Just because it has a element combo system, or just because it has dodging, does not at all mean it's like another game. You can have aspects from the game and it still be nothing like it. But I get what he's saying. I just want to clear that for anyone. Just because it has an elemental combo system does not mean it plays at all like Genshin. Just because it has dodging doesn't mean it's Zenless Zero Wuthering Waves. It's going to be its own game. It's going to have its own gameplay. You're going to have control of all your characters at the exact same time. It's going to have a different skill point system, everything. It's gonna be vastly different from those other games.
But here's what I found as someone who has built roughly 4 to 6 units to or near max investment. Unlike in Zenless Zone Zero or Wuthering Waves, elements play a significant role in direct combat, since mixing elements together for reactions in direct combat is very useful. This means that although in something like Zenless Zone Zero or Wuthering Waves, you may find bonus damage from taking a fire character against a cryo unit, this is not really the case or focus of Enfield's combat as a whole. In some cases, activating elemental reactions is how you
Which I gotta say, I have grown pretty tired of this boss is weak to fire, so only use fire. This system is, well, it doesn't really have a weakness, you just kind of gotta fight it. But the whole point of the elements is to make you stronger, not make them weaker. I really like that system because it opens up to, well, if I want to use this one character, all I really got to do is build a team around this one character, and I can essentially, theoretically, do all the combat with that one character and not have any drawbacks. I like that thought. I like that aspect.
enable your character to use special abilities or skills, and because of this, the damage, the usefulness, and the utility of elements being applied properly should not be overlooked or underestimated. Regarding other combat systems, knockdown and crowd control abilities that stop enemies from moving are extremely valuable too, but this is actually because of dodging. On that note, let's talk about dodging, because this is a mechanic that will take some getting used to. Unlike other
Yeah, I heard the dodging in Arknights Endfield was extremely precise. You have to be frame perfect, and you can't do it when they flash, because like if you play Zenless Zone Zero, Wuthering Waves, the enemy flashes when they're going to do an attack. They do that in Arknight Enfield, but there's a delay. They'll flash, ding, 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 then it attacks. It's going to take a little getting used to, because people are going to dash and then immediately get hit because they didn't dash at the right time. That is definitely going to take a while for people to get used to that.
other action combat games where dodging is often used to take risks and maximize damage, all while just staying out of danger, it's handled much different here. The window to perform a successful dodge is much shorter, but more than anything else, many of the abilities
Yeah. Did you guys see that? That is crazy.
window to perform a successful dodge is much shorter, but more than anything else,
See, it went flash, and he's already over here, and it just now shot. That is a crazy delay.
many of the abilities or attacks in
Crazy
Arknights
delay.
Enfield will punish you or feel worse when trying to weave dodges with them. And this isn't even factoring in attack frequency from enemies. To illustrate one example specifically though, let's talk about battle skills. Giving context quickly, battle skills are abilities performable by any character, similar to resonance skills or EX special abilities in other gacha games. But to put simply, it costs 1 resource bar to activate one of these skills. However, with the way that dodging and attack patterns from enemies work,
That recess bar or resource bar, this one down here, yeah, it does not go up fast. I don't know if there's ways to build up that meter a little bit faster, but there's a very large delay. You can't just spam your skills. You have to do them at exact points. I think that's how you parry when they're doing special things. You can't just go out and burn your skills, because you're just going to run out of things. You won't be able to parry. You won't be able to do anything. It's going to be very methodical, very focused kind of gameplay, not just spammy.
this will sometimes cause you to need to perform a dodge as you are also casting a battle skill. The reason this is an issue is because as of now, this will actually use up and not refund the resource that you used as a result of you having to interrupt or dodge your ability, and this can just feel very uncomfortable or unsatisfying at times. In addition to this, performing multiple dodges in a row feels very clunky since there's actually a delay in between each performable dodge.
There needs to be a delay. It makes it so you purposefully dodge things instead of just spamming away hoping you get something done. It's a skill. It's a skill gap. And some people are not going to get used to it, but you have to, with the delay between attacks and a delay between dodges, you're really going to have to actually focus up and dodge when you need to dodge. You can't just spam the button and hope you get it done.
dodge, and this also isn't factoring in the stamina system, which you'll also have to consider so you don't run out of the ability to dodge at all. Now, despite what I've described, none of this is nearly as disorienting as the fact that your battle skill and ultimates are not guaranteed to have invincibility frames. This means that if an enemy can swing at you and deal knockback or massive damage, you'll have to either disengage and run away entirely, or you'll have to use a dodge and pray that you aren't forced to use a multi-dodge and get hit in the process.
See, I don't know. I feel like at the very least, ultimates should have invincibility frames. Because if I spend all that time building up an ultimate and I'm about to unleash it and my character just tapped on the side and I lose the ultimate, that's bogus as shit. I feel like at the very least, ultimates need to have invincibility frames. At the very least.
Moving away from dodges though, let's actually talk about specifics regarding characters and some encounters. Gilberta, as of now, is a 6-star character that is given for free after 3 days of playing the game.
Very nice.
And let me tell you, this character is very, very strong. If a wind character that vacuums and crowd controls enemies together while also being very powerful at the start of a game's release sounds very familiar, well, you're in luck. Yes, she's basically Venti, but this time you're guaranteed to get her.
Or Nicole. Or Nicole from Zenless Zone Zero.
Lavatine is another 6-star character, but also one of the first limiteds that is currently pullable as of now. I definitely noticed that, especially compared to other DPS, her damage was off the charts, and she also destroyed everything easily, especially early on. Now finally, I do want to comment on a few of the bosses and enemies that I fought, as there were a few of note, but I won't go too far in detail since some of them are spoilers. That being said,
I wonder, since they're giving us Gilberta for free, supposedly, I don't know if that'll stay or if it's just a beta thing. If we do get Gilberta for free after playing for like a week or whatever, I wonder if they're going to do the same thing that other Gacha games do, at least with Zenless Zone Zero, Honkai Star Rail and stuff. I wonder if they're going to give you a selector after doing like 300 standard pulls or anything like that, or give you any kind of selector after doing so much. Because I feel like that'd be awesome if you got a selector.
There were a number of bosses that had designs in the way that Wuthering Waves bosses have mechanics to look out for, and this includes things like dive bombs, meteors raining from the sky, and multi-phase fights. To be honest though, a lot of these fights felt a bit less comfortable since the more restrictive dodge system in place caused movement to feel more limited or clunky, but they were still definitely manageable. Overall though, the combat definitely felt much better once I got higher level, as new sets, levels in my characters, and general investments in damage led me to experience content that was difficult but simultaneously rewarding as well. However, as a final side note and just a gripe of mine, there is this one flamethrower character who you end up fighting a lot, as it's something that you farm for character materials, but that character is super annoying to fight since, again, you don't have any invincibility frames to land your abilities against him in most cases, and unless you use a cryo or a ranged character to deal with him, he just stands there freaking out and you have to wait for him to calm down before you can start hitting him again. Now, next, I wanted to talk.
Ooh, that sounds a bit lame. I'm gonna be real. That sounds a bit lame. You have to have a cryo character to deal with that one guy. I'm not liking that one.
Talk about the more broad systems that are in the game that I felt were actually worth talking about. Gear and weapons are well themed, with plenty of interesting passives or designs that feel catered specifically for a special character or gameplay concept in mind. Now, although this is the case, that doesn't mean that you can't experiment with or test out new combinations, as this definitely feels like something that is rewarded or actually incentivized, as you don't actually need 4 of your 4 total equipment slots being the same set, and rather you only need 3. There were also small things that gave the game personality, and this included things like puzzles always being in the form of shapes or special identifiable icons like,
ooh, I get to put the I get to put the square thing in the square hole, and then the triangle in the square hole, and then the rectangle in the square hole. Oh, so much fun.
Parts or symmetrical shapes. We were also introduced to things like drastically different exploration routes after you completed a challenge that would then open up and make exploration easier for you. And truthfully, there were so many other instances like this in the game that really made it feel like the developers cared about the game that they were designing. Now, leveling up the world also felt even more rewarding compared to other experiences I've had, since it not only increased the level and drops from enemies, it also gave more ore while providing an increase to the special rare limit limited materials scattered across the map. This increase in resources across the board not only increased the speed at which you could make new gear, but also acted as a way for you to gain additional materials that you would need for things like upgrading your characters or promoting your weapons. The final comment I'd like to mention about Enfield systems is that constellations or multiple copies of characters can be strong, but it's not necessarily for the reason that you're thinking of.
I've heard that the copies you get are very negligible. It really doesn't matter if you get the base one copy or if you get 5 extras. The damage is going to be so minimal, it's not really going to do anything. And I'm completely for that. It really lessens the FOMO. You get the one character and you're happy, and then you can save up the rest. It's not like Honkai Star Rail, where the Eidolons, you get one Eidolon and all of a sudden your character's God. It goes from literally doing nothing to God mode. And I love that they're doing this. Like for the mega whales that really want to throw their money at the game, yeah, you can get some stat boost. But my character that is just a base copy compared to your character with 6 copies, it's not going to really be a difference. Very negligible difference. It's just slight damage increases. I thank you, Infield devs, for that, honestly.
Although the expected reward for having multiple of the same character is a significant damage increase, for instance, I found that one of the most valuable aspects of certain characters' additional copies was actually unlocking additional resource generation or reduced cost to cast their ultimates. The best value I found by unlocking constellations or getting multiple copies of the characters was actually the more fluid and smooth gameplay loop that it provided. This is because the added effect of things like bonus SP,
which, if you guys don't know, the 5 stars are going to be essentially like the 4-ish stars, 4.5 stars, however you want to say it. But the 6 stars are the 5 stars, the limited characters. So, from what I've seen, the limited characters is not going to be that big of a deal to get copies. But for everything else, for the character banners, you only get characters. So you're going to max out your characters from 5-star and below super fast. So it's not even a worry of, well, oh, I'm going to have to wait so long to get these copies or whatever. It's just, it's going to happen. No matter what, it's going to happen.
Or reduced ultimate cost kept combat much more active and prevented me from having to wait around endlessly for my cooldowns or my ultimate energy to regenerate. And now the final system I want to talk about is actually in regard to the gacha system. This is an extremely hotly debated topic, so let me explain this clearly. A single character pull in this game costs 500 premium currency, and with it, a 10 pull therefore costs 5,000. A 6-star character has a 0.8% chance of appearing while pulling, and by contrast, there is an 8% chance to receive a 5-star. Every 10 pulls, you are guaranteed to receive a 5-star, but at 80 pulls, you are actually guaranteed a 6-star, though there is a 50-50 chance of you receiving a different 6-star than the one listed on the limited rate-up banner. At this point, everything is similar to or familiar enough to other systems in the general gacha / new age Hoyoverse gacha landscape, but where things change is what happens if you actually lose this initial 80 pull 50-50. Upon this happening, 2 things go into effect. First, the necessary pulls to guarantee the character is reduced from 80 to 40, and second, once hitting the additional 40 pity or in total 120 pulls, you are guaranteed to receive the limited 6-star character whose banner you selected. Now, the reason why things are controversial, especially with the character banner, is because of the following. Pulls on this banner do not carry over to the next.
So, for anyone curious, it is just entirely better. Because, well, I should say it's entirely better than other gacha systems. Well, because you don't have to do that the whole other pity. It's only 40 extra after losing the 50-50, which already is great. But for anyone who doesn't have impulse control issues, just like it says right here, the pulls does not carry over. So you can't just throw pull after pull after pull after pull, hoping to try and get that character, and then the banner ends and now you got nothing. Now, if you get the character, either you get the character or you don't get the character. Once you decide what you want to do from there, you really kind of got to commit. Now, if you want to try and get that pity again, you're going to have to realize, well, I'm going to save my pools. Maybe I do, maybe I don't have enough pools at the end of the banner to get it. If I don't, all right, I'm just going to save these pools for the next banner I want. If I do, then you could throw those at the banner and collect what you need. But you got to have impulse control. You cannot just throw one pull after one pull after one pull at the banner. You got to actually think about it. And if you could just really bottle up that Gacha addict, this banner system is better than all the other banner systems and more forgiving.
Next, and despite being guaranteed the limited rate up banner for the first time when you pull, any subsequent dupes or additional pulls on this banner are a 50-50 permanently and do not guarantee you the character as it did before.
Yeah, I forgot to say that. It's just, you get one guaranteed, and then it's 50-50s forever. It's not every other one is a guaranteed. It's guaranteed. It's a 50-50 no matter how many times you win or lose.
Being truthful, I understand the outrage and anger behind.
They're really pushing for you to really kind of, everything they're doing is telling you, just get the one copy of the character. You don't need multiple copies. Just get the one copy and you're good to go. They're just telling you, hey, just relax, just pull it back. If you lose the 50-50, well, you only need 40 more pulls, then you get the character. But if you're trying to whale out, then we're going to take you for a ride. Because you only get a 50-50. And if you lose all those 50-50s, well, that's it. I got nothing to tell you on that one.
Behind a system like this, but from pulling and playing through the game with its current premium currency economy, I have some thoughts. First, I do want to say that the consolations for characters can be significant at times, but they are certainly not insane enough to justify needing or even requiring multiple copies of a character. Additionally, if you aren't someone who would be pulling for multiple copies of a character, you actually can save upwards of 40 or 60 whole pulls depending on what game you compare it to, with games like Genshin or Zenless Zone Zero having a 180 guaranteed pity, with a game like Wuthering Waves, as far as I could tell, actually requiring 160. Therefore, this can then be amazing, since technically the pity to receive a guaranteed would then be 120 instead of, well, 160 or 180. Now, ultimately, what I think will really matter in regards to all of this is how they actually treat the pull economy and how many resources you get premium currency wise.
Yeah, that is true. It really all depends on how many pulls you get per patch, per banner, whatever you want to say. Because if you only get like 80 pulls, it's gonna be rough, because you can only guarantee what character you want about every other banner or so, which is nice. But if you got two banners back to back that you really want, I hope you saved up for it. It really just depends on how they allocate resources and how they give us the pools,
alongside how they decide to treat the consolation system upon release and in the future. As it stands, we have plenty of pulls and resources to obtain characters and weapons in the game, but who knows, things can change from beta to launch.
Absolutely. Do not take anything that they do in the beta to heart, because you don't know if they're doing that just so they can test the banner system and see how people react. It does not at all mean, hey, these are the exact pulls you're going to be getting at launch.
The final section that I wanted to talk about will be short, since I would rather players experience the story for themselves, but something I'd like to...
Okay, so he hasn't talked about the weapon gacha. The weapon gacha is amazing. It's basically completely free on the weapon gacha side. You get the currency for the weapon gacha by doing regular pulls on the banner. And it's like every 40 pulls that you do on the weapon gacha, you get a 6-star weapon. So and then you also can get that currency and buy 6-star weapons just outright. So it's super forgiving. They really don't have a lot of things locked behind a paywall when it comes to the weapon gacha. It's really all the character. And even then, for the character, you only need one copy. It's a very generous game so far. Very generous.
Inform you guys about specifically is the story in concept and execution. To start, the protagonist does talk, but as per Arknights tradition, we are a faceless, masked character who is now the hero of the game. Spoiler free, I will also mention that the
So instead of a face and no voice, we're just a voice with no face. I love it.
story itself felt decent, great, and even
Good change of
excellent during
pace.
some parts, but I will admit that the long stretches and mix-ups of me having to fight, then explore, and then build my base did at times take away from my overall immersion of the story to pay attention to exactly what was going on. Interestingly, the game also has a skip and summary of dialogue feature currently available in the beta, but in general, I felt that the story was well paced, didn't feel too obnoxious or unrealistic at all, and I did also enjoy the varied voice acting between characters, zones, and different NPCs. That's going to be it for today's video though, guys. As I'm sure you
All right, that was a fantastic video, and you know, I think he was right. Arknights Endfield, you know, let me compose myself. Arknights Endfield has very high potential, and I think if it keeps improving like it did from the first beta to the current beta, and it keeps improving like that up until release, I feel like it might overtake some of the big gacha games out right now. It really just depends on how they implement the game, how they update it, optimize it, and how they implement how many pulls we get per patch or per banner. Uh, I want to know how all that's going to turn out, but it was fantastic. Don't forget to check him out. Don't forget to check Hannah out. Leave a like. He did a fantastic job on this video. Great video, great guy. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel as well. I would truly appreciate it. And have a good one. And thank you for watching. Peace.